As a dermatologist, it always used to bother me how frustrated my patients used to feel when they had vitiligo and there couldn't be any solution for them. We tried all sorts of medical treatments and all sorts of camouflages, but nothing really used to work for a very long time. Some of the medical treatments do work, of course, but not all the time. There is no guarantee for that. So, as a permanent makeup artist, when I started my journey, it was always my dream to bring out something that can provide a solution to these frustrated souls and provide a camouflage that will last at least for several months to a few years. So finally, we are here with a vitiligo kit, a vitiligo camouflage kit that can be used with permanent makeup machines and give a camouflage that can match the Indian skin tones. Isn't that wonderful? This particular kit contains 5 different shades. There are 3 liquid pigments and 2 semi-cream pigments. The semi-cream pigments, that is wit gold and wit satin, are meant to give opacity and uniformity. See, understand that the pigment in the skin is in the epidermis, whereas the pigment that we are putting is going to be in the dermis. The epidermis is a translucent structure, kind of like this. So when we put the pigment in the dermis, we have to remember that the color eventually is going to be visible as if through a frosted glass, whereas the color naturally there in the skin is visible directly from the surface. So color matching this is very important, and hence we had to add opacifiers like wit gold and wit satin, because the epidermis is slightly opaque, whereas the dermis is more transparent. The dermis is a gel-like structure which is more transparent in nature. So these pigments were created to give color as well as opacity in order to provide a very good match to the surrounding skin. Let me show you how these pigments work. First, I will be showing you the semi-cream pigments and the liquid pigments all separately, and then we will do a very nice color matching session. So the semi-cream pigments, that is wit satin and wit gold, and we have liquid pigments that are wit spice, wit caramel and wit coffee. So I'll show you the nature of each of these pigments. Wit spice is a reddish brown pigment, wit caramel is a yellowish brown pigment, and wit coffee is a blackish brown pigment. So depending on the kind of skin that you are dealing with, we will have to mix and match the pigments. Always shake the pigments before you use them. This is wit spice. This is wit caramel. And this is wit coffee. I'll be showing you the undertones of each of them. Wit spice is reddish brown in color, wit caramel is yellowish brown in color, and wit coffee is blackish brown in color. Then we have wit satin and wit gold. Wit satin is a light colored cream pigment, semi-cream pigment. This is wit satin. Wit gold, as its name suggests, is a golden yellow colored semi-cream pigment. And these will not have any separate undertones. They are as it is. Semi-cream pigments are not having any separate undertones, but with the liquid pigments that you can see, the moment you dilute them, they will separate and show different sorts of colors. Now I have created various skin colors with vitiligo patches like colors in between. So we are going to try and match the color of the surrounding skin with our pigments. So these patches that I have created are not with our pigments. They have been created using watercolors. So now we are going to match the inside of this with the help of our pigments. Now you have to see what is the kind of undertone. This one, this one, this one and this one have more of a yellowish undertone, and hence wit gold will be a good base for that. Whereas if you see this one, it has more of a pinkish undertone, and hence wit satin will be a good base for that. This is a very dark skin and hence we will be using wit coffee for that. For this, wit coffee will be more appropriate, whereas for a reddish tone like this, wit spice will be more appropriate, and for lighter colors we will be using wit caramel as a mixture. So let us begin. So I am taking wit satin here. So I am taking a drop of wit satin over here and here as well. Because this is a lighter color, I earlier mentioned that this has a yellowish tone, we can mix wit satin and wit gold both. Whereas for the darker colors, we will prefer to have more of wit gold as an opacifier. Now for the reddish toned skin, we will be adding a little bit of wit spice. This is wit spice. For the lighter colored skin, we will be adding wit caramel. And for the darker skin, we will be adding wit coffee. Now let us see how well we are able to achieve a skin match. That's a beautiful match, I would say, wouldn't you? We'll mix this. This is wit gold with wit spice. I'm leaving a little bit of the patch here for you to see what the vitiligo color was actually like. This is wit coffee with wit gold. So as you can see, here there is no reddish tone to the skin and hence I have not used wit spice. So this is more of a red tone. You might want to add a little bit more of wit coffee over here. This is a darker skin and here I definitely feel the need to add more of wit coffee. So I've put a drop here, but I don't need that much of wit coffee. So I'm going to mix a little here. So here I've added wit coffee and wit gold. This is once again wit spice with wit gold. You can vary the proportion of colors based on how dark or light your skin is, but definitely you need to add an opacifier whenever you are dealing with vitiligo camouflage. Now in all of these, I have added more of wit satin because these are lighter skin colors, but still you can see that it is quite dark. We are not able to match the color here. I would like to add a little more of wit satin here. It's still quite dark. Some more of wit satin. Okay, so here I had also added wit gold, which I think is not giving us a good match. So every time you are going to do vitiligo camouflage for your patient, you should always do a trial test area. We will come back to this. I'll show you how to get a better color match there. This, however, is more of a yellowish tone, so I think adding some more wit satin will give us the right result because we've already added wit gold over there. You can see, although we had just put one drop of the darker color, you can see how dense and concentrated our colors are. This is specifically designed for Indian skin and also Indian weather, because especially with vitiligo, you are going to be dealing in various body areas which are going to have friction with the clothes and water. Let's say you are doing it on somebody's hands, it is going to have a lot of contact with water, because there will be hand washing frequently. So we had to make sure that the colors are dense enough to last for a few months to a few years. Let this dry up and we'll see how well the color has matched. This is a bit of pinkish tone, so we might need to add a little bit of wet spice over here. And here as well. So now you'll be able to see these two are more yellowish, whereas these two are more pinkish. So wherever the surrounding skin is reddish or pinkish, you would need to add more of wet spice. And wherever the skin is having a yellowish tone, you can add more of wet gold, wet caramel, etc. So caramel and gold do not have much of red or pink in it. Yes, this is a better match. I'll show you why it's a better match. You might right now feel that these two colors are different. Okay, here also we'll need to add a bit more wet satin. I hope you are finding it as interesting as I am. Some more of wet satin. Yes, this is a pretty close color match. And last but not the least, we are going to be dealing with this particular color here. I think we might as well add a little more of wet satin, because these are all lighter shades of skin. Now you can see how important it is to do a color match before you actually go ahead and do a vitiligo procedure. And unless you add an opacifier, these colors are going to have something known as a Tyndall effect. A Tyndall effect is when light reflects off a surface through some sort of water or refractive surface, and it gives a greenish blue tinge. So if you don't add an opacifier, the dermis has a transparent substance, a gel-like substance. So the light is going to pass through the pigment, it is going to still enter the dermis, and then it is going to reflect back on the surface, and hence you will not see exactly the color that you have implanted. The idea behind adding an opacifier is to make sure that the light reflects off the surface and does not pass through it. So if you are using only a liquid pigment, the light is going to pass through that transparent watercolor like liquid pigment, and it is going to go into the matrix of the dermis where there is transparent liquid water, and it is going to reflect from there, and hence it is going to distort the color and not give a true to color result. So here you have to also keep in mind that the epidermis is an opaque structure. So let me allow this to dry off, and then I will show you what it is going to look like when it is healed. So our color matching has now dried up. As I mentioned earlier, the epidermis is slightly opaque, it's not completely transparent, like you can just see through it like a transparent glass. It's slightly opaque. So here, in order to give you the feel of opacity, I've taken a spatula. So the spatula, if I place it on the area where I've treated it with vitiligo, that I have to compare with the surrounding skin. So not the actual pigment, but what the actual pigment is going to look like is something that I can see through a translucent spatula. So that is the eventual color that I am going to achieve. Although the epidermis is not as brightly translucent as this, it is more dull, you know, it's like a three-dimensional translucency. So after the first session, when the patient comes for a touch-up, you'll be able to judge what is the amount of color retained. So here you have to keep a record of three things. One is the before and after pictures that you have taken. So before starting the procedure, you have to click a picture. After doing the color matching with the pigments on the skin, before you use a needle to implant the pigment, you have to click a picture. After completion of the procedure, you need to click a picture. So you'll be clicking pictures at 3 stages. Apart from this, you'll have to keep a record of exactly what proportion of colors you mixed. You know, so if you are taking, let's say, 4 drops of wet satin with 2 drops of wet coffee and 2 drops of wet spice, you need to maintain a record. Third thing that you need to maintain a record is how many number of passes, how many layers of pigment have you placed in order to give the kind of saturation that you have achieved. So when you keep these 3 records and compare it with the result when the patient comes for a touch-up, you'll be able to judge exactly what sort of color you have got and how much quantity of pigment has been retained. So if you are going to put a particular amount of pigment in the skin, not all of that pigment is going to stay in the skin. A lot of the pigment will get shed off from the epidermis, of course, but even from the dermis, some of the pigment is going to shed off. So what eventually remains is your final saturation. So based on how much saturation has remained, you might need to do 1 or 2 sessions more. So vitiligo camouflage is a process which will require approximately 2 to 3 sessions over a period of 2 to 3 months. So you need to give that sort of timeline to your patient, and in order for them to plan it ahead of time. So vitiligo color matching is unique and it differs from person to person. You will have to mix and match various shades to achieve the exact color match. And our kit, the Vitiligo Camouflage Kit from Eyebrow, is going to help you achieve the perfect results for your vitiligo camouflage. However, you need to keep in mind that this is not a treatment for the vitiligo disease. The vitiligo disease may spread with or without camouflage, and you need to counsel your patient properly before you go ahead with the vitiligo camouflage. Also, I would recommend that you try a small patch, a small area to see how much pigment retention there is and apply the correct technique of implanting the pigment. So our kit, which contains 5 different shades, that is wet spice, wet coffee and wet caramel, which are the browns, and 2 opacifiers, that is wet gold and wet satin, can help you bring a smile to your patient's face. You can purchase this kit online on our website, that's www.eyebrow.in. So start spreading smiles at the earliest.